Good morning. Welcome to the SMS webinar. Before we start the session, please allow me some housekeeping notes. This session today is being recorded and will be made available through EMA corporate website and YouTube channel. Throughout the session, you can use the interactive tool Slido to ask us questions, and we will be answering them. Please note that interaction with Slido is voluntary, and you may also opt to remain anonymous. If you do give us your details, your personal details, you are hereby consenting to the processing of your personal data as explained in the EMA data privacy statement for Slido. So in Slido, please contact us via the QR code that you see on screen or the code that you will see at the bottom of each slide of the presentation. And you can use Slido to provide questions to us. Please, before posting a new question, have a look at questions that have been previously raised and vote for it, as it will increase the likelihood that it gets answered. Throughout the session, we will have colleagues in the background trying to address them as much as possible in writing. And at the end of the session, the presenter will verbally address the top unanswered questions that have not been addressed in the meantime. So please vote for the question that you would like to see addressed. And if it hasn't been answered, we will attempt to address it at the end. Please note that while we do all the best efforts to address each and every question, sometimes we do have a high volume of questions, or we require assistance of the presenter or even a colleague that is not available today. So some questions may unfortunately go unanswered. If that happens, we will fish out the most relevant ones and address them in the frequently asked questions that we have in the SPOR portal. If you are still keen on a particular question or you have a specific case you would like to see addressed, we will kindly ask you to refer to the service desk so that we can assign a number, investigate it, and actually assign it to the relevant colleague so that it can be addressed. So do bear with us. Thank you. The presentation today has already been published on EMA Events webpage, where you found information about this webinar. And we can also publish it on the SPOR portal documentation. Recordings of the webinar will be available through YouTube channel and EMA Events page. But please, it does take us a while to make these recordings available. They're not instant. If you want to receive the recordings and the presentations via email, please register your email address via Slido using the event code that you see on screen. And after the session, we will email them to you. Thank you very much. My name is Isabel Shishiro. I'm the head of service responsible for SPOR services and XCVMPD. I will be in the background in case you need me and hoping to assist with some of the questions in the meantime. And now I have the pleasure to hand you over to Pedro Batista, who is the substance business lead for SMS at EMA. So have a nice session, everyone.
Thank you, Isabel, and good morning, everyone. So I will be presenting this SMS webinar today. And this is the fourth SPOR webinar that we are conducting in this series. So we have already done the data governance, RMS, and OMS. Today, you'll be listening to SMS, and in the coming days, you will have XCVMPD, Service Desk, EMA Account Management, and then the API. So I hope that you can join the next webinars as well. So the goals for today is to increase awareness of the SMS activities, to share our plans for future activities, and to show how SMS is addressing customer feedback. So in terms of agenda, I'll be giving a very brief introduction to SMS and the SMS processes. Then I'll be focusing on some SMS data stewardship activities and change request process. I will give an overview of the data quality management, present some brief statistics, point out some useful information on SMS, and then describe the use of SMS in projects or consuming systems, and then the new sections presenting what has been done in the past months in SMS, what our future plans for the coming months, and then some key takeaways and conclusions. In the end of the session, there will be a question and answers. So, to start, we currently have in place two complementary solutions for efficient substance management. So we have SMS and USRS. So the purpose of SMS is to provide a central source of substance data that supports the selection of a given substance in a regulatory process and allows to distinguish between two or more substances. While USRS provides a source of substance data that supports the scientific identification and characterization of substances. And USRS is now live for NCAs. Now, in terms of people managing these systems, in SMS, we have the EMA data stewards that are specialized in data management activities, while in USRS, we have the Substance Validation Group, SVG, which are substance experts from the network. By using these complementary sets of skills, we can enable a better substance management. In terms of technology, USRS is an open source software that implements ISO IDMP logic. So it allows registering very high quality scientific data, while SMS is integrated in the regulatory systems and business processes in the network. By using these two solutions, we have a cost-effective way to manage and reuse substance data. What I would like to highlight here is that there is only one EU substance list. So the data, the substance records between SMS and USRS, they share the same ID, and they are being aligned via data fixes or batch processes. So future real-time synchronization is desired, but still has to be prioritized in the network project portfolio. So SMS contains all substances used in pharmaceutical products available in USRS, but it only contains a subset of the data fields from USRS. Now, focusing on SMS, I'll be presenting some of the main SMS data fields, starting with identifiers. So we have the primary identifier of substance, which is the SMS ID, which in some systems is named as UTCT ID. But these two names refer to the same code. Then there is a secondary ID, the substance EV code, that it's generated in XCV-MPD. So it is an additional ID that only exists for human substances. Now, in terms of mandatory fields for all the substances, we have the domain, if it's human or vet. We have the status, current or non-current, and we have different substance exports for these two status. I'll be talking about this a bit later. Then we have substance type, we have substance names, and this can be the preferred term, can be aliases, which are synonyms in English, and we have translations in all EU languages. Then we have the language, we have the name source. So this is where the data steward found the respective substance name, and this is mandatory for the preferred terms and aliases. And then we have a field called data classification that can be public or restricted. So this is how we manage confidentiality, and only the public names are visible in the substance export and in the consuming systems. Then we have a few optional data fields, such as molecular formula and HKey. So these are data fields that we use for chemicals. You can also see them in the export. Then we have a free text field for comments that we are currently using to provide a replacement substance if there is a duplicate. You can also see it in the export. And we have a field called substance current. So this is a similar field to what was presented in the RMS presentation. So it's a field where we can also include the replacement SMS ID, also in case of a duplicate. You can also see it in the export. And we have some substance codes, such as the unique ingredient identifier, the UNI. So this is the FDA substance identifier, and the SVG cleansed flag, which I'll be explaining a bit better later. But those codes are also available in the export. Now, into the process. In SMS, we perform a lot of activities, and a group of these activities is what we call data stewardship, and this is managing the change requests that are created by industry users or NCA users or even EMA colleagues. And then we have data services, which are proactive activities that we perform, and they can be enrichments, mappings, or cleansing. Then we also provide customer service. So we address requests for information, so questions. We also perform data quality management. So we have activities around quality control, data profiling, and quality assurance. And I'll be talking about this later in the presentation. And also some service management activities. So managing the new IT deliveries, and also managing performance of our contractors with invoicing and KPI reporting, and also addressing customer satisfaction, so ER satisfaction. Now, focusing on data stewardship activities, we perform three types of data services that I've already mentioned. So starting with mappings on the left. So a data mapping is matching substance data that comes from a legacy system to the data that we already have in SMS. And as a result of this, we might be creating new substance records or updating already existing substance records. And this supports data migrations and implementation of SMS in telematic systems. Some examples of data mappings that we have performed was mapping the veterinary NCA data for the UPD, so the Union Product Database, which is the veterinary product database, go live. Mapping orphan designation substances for IRIS. So IRIS started by onboarding this regulatory procedure. So we went to the old orphan designation database and ensured that all substances were registered and mapped in SMS to support this system, and also the mapping of development substances from XCV-MPD, which I will be explaining better later. Then going to data enrichment on the top right side. So this is a proactive update of SMS data with official reference information. And we do this not only to improve data quality, but also to prevent the submission of change requests, so to minimize the burden on industry and NCA users. And some examples of these regular data enrichments are the INN and USAN names. So every time a new INN list is published or new USANs are published, we analyze these lists and we either create or update the substances accordingly. Then in terms of data cleansing, so this is another proactive exercise where we analyze SMS data to identify and nullify duplicated substances, and also to standardize SMS data against reference information. And again, this improves data quality and reduces the need of change requests by the users. And this data cleansing in general is being performed by PSVG, which is cleansing the legacy substance data as it has been prioritized by the network. And as of today, we have 39% of the substances in SMS reviewed. However, this represents 100% of the active substances in veterinary approved products and 79% of the substances used in human approved products. And in this slide, you can see the substance types or groups that have already been cleansed. So starting with the first line, so it's the active veterinary substances that I have mentioned. Then we also have all the chemicals cleansed, all the insulins, all the other proteins linked to a product, the polymers, which are mainly excipients that are more commonly used in products. We also have completed all the color-con excipients. So these are the Opa-Dries, Opalux. So it's a very common group of excipients that it's also cleansed. And we have some substance types for which the cleansing is ongoing. And these are the human vaccines, herbals and the herbal extracts, and the homeopathic substances. Now, what does it mean for you, for the users, when a substance gets cleansed? So what changes? So in terms of substance names, so there is the possibility that some preferred terms get updated, some new names are added, while some incorrect names are removed. Some aliases might be changed to a translation because they were incorrectly registered in the beginning. We have also added Unicodes, so the FDA substance identifier, when this is available. But some preferred terms have been identified that they should be changed, but we cannot change them at the moment because changing a preferred term might have an impact on ICSR recoding. So these names are parked to be updated in the near future. Now, in terms of substance status, If the substance is deemed valid, we leave the status as current. If the substance is invalid or a duplicate, then we usually make the substance non-current. When a substance is made non-current, it cannot be used in any system or in ICSRs. We do add a replacement substance for the duplicates in both the section comments and the replacement substance, and then you can see that information in the substance export. And you should check if these substances are used in any internal system or any other context, and instead use the replacement substance. Then when we are performing this data cleansing exercise, we add an external code, so the SVG flag, for the substances that have been reviewed. So if a substance does not have this code, it means that it has not yet been reviewed. If it has been reviewed and it was considered a valid substance, then it gets the flag 1. And if it is an invalid substance, then it gets the flag 0. So substances with a flag 0 should not be used in any regulatory procedures. However, we cannot nullify it until all the products in XCV-MPD and the potential ICSRs are relinked. So if you do identify that your products in XCV-MPD are using one of these substances with a flag 0, then you should relink it to a substance with a flag 1, so that we can, in the future, nullify these substances. Now, going to the change request process. So a change request starts by a requester creating a ticket in EMA Service Desk, either to create a substance or update a substance. And when doing that, the substance request form and supporting documentation should be attached in this ticket. Then there is a validation stage where the SMS data stewards will be analyzing the request, analyzing the manuals elaborated by the SVG, analyzing a lot of external sources relevant to that specific substance type, and the data already in SMS to decide if a new substance needs to be created or already existing substance needs to be updated, or if the request is not valid. And as an outcome of this, the change request might get approved, and then published in all the consuming systems, or it might be rejected, and the reasons for it are explained to the requester, and usually alternative SMS ID is provided instead. I also would like to highlight the SLAs for the substance requests. So the priority is for new substances, so the SLA is between 5 to 10 working days. Then translations have a slightly longer SLA, so 10 to 15 working days. Also, these SLAs that I've mentioned are for requests with less than 20 substances. For bulk requests, we consider a bulk request when more than 20 substances are requested at once, then we cannot guarantee an SLA. And we do get quite large bulk requests from time to time. For example, we sometimes get bulk homeopathic requests where 1,000 substances are requested at once. So for these ones, we cannot guarantee an SLA, but we will still do our best to address it as soon as possible. I would also like to highlight that the new substances that are being created, they have a higher quality than the legacy data because they are being based on the business rules defined by the SVG. And these newly created substances might eventually be reviewed by the SVG, and discussions around this process are ongoing. Now, giving some practical walkthrough of the change request process in the Service Desk portal. So after you go to EMA Service Desk and you select Applications and SPOR, you will see Request SMS Services, and this is the form that you should be using to create your substance change request. A small form will appear for you to populate, and there are some mandatory fields, so you will need to add something in the subject. So this one is not very strict, so it's a free text field, so as long as you mention that you need a new substance for whichever purpose it is, it will be fine. And then in the description, you can add a bit more detailed information. If it is a new substance, just a general description. If it is an update of already existing substance, then you should provide either the SMS ID or the EV code, whichever is easier for you, and the new name that you would like to add to this substance record. Then the third mandatory field is the SMS request type. So this is a drop-down list, and this is a very important field to be populated because different regulatory procedures have different rules for the preferred term. And I'll be talking about this a bit later, but the choice that you make here will influence how your substance will be registered. And then documentation. So it is very important to attach the substance request form that you can get the link available in this ServiceNow form, but also supporting documentation. And this will depend on the regulatory procedure. There might be no SMPC available because the substance is still in early stages, but investigator brochure, investigation medicinal product dossier, company specification, draft sections of orphan designations or scientific advice. So we are very flexible with the documentation as long as it describes the substance nomenclature and structure if it's applicable. And some key principles for the substance request form. You can see the form at the bottom of this slide, and you have 3 columns: the name type, the names for you to populate, and then privacy settings. So in the privacy settings, you can adjust if you would like the name to be public or restricted, but at least one name needs to be public. So this is a validation rule in SMS itself, but also external users can only see public names. So if all the names were registered as restricted, then you will not be able to see your own substance. Then the official names, so such as INN, USAN, pharmacopoeias, these are always registered as public. And you might notice that the substance request form does not have an option to select the preferred term, because this is defined by the SMS data stewards according to the business rules and with the regulatory procedure that the substance is going to be used on. Then proposed INNs and USAN names cannot be used as substance preferred terms, but we will still register them as aliases, so synonyms. And for certain regulatory procedures, such as orphan designation, pediatric investigation plan, and marketing authorization application, the company code cannot be used as the substance preferred term. Now, concretely, in this slide, we have an example of a request for a chemical for clinical trials, and this is what we would expect to receive. So we would get a systematic name that is set as restricted because the substance is still under development. This information is not available anywhere, so we will not publish it. And then the company code would be registered as public. So in the consuming systems, you would only see this ABC 123, and the systematic name above would not be visible in any consuming system. Also, this is not a real substance name, so don't worry, no confidential information is being disclosed in this webinar. Now we have another example. So we have a request for a protein for orphan designation, and we can see in the form where we have a proposed INN, we have a common name describing in general the structure and the function of this monoclonal antibody, and we have two company codes. And as I've mentioned, the company code cannot be used as the preferred term for orphan designation. So the two names, the QWERTY and the ASD, cannot be used as preferred term. There is INN, but it's still a proposed INN, so it also cannot be used as the preferred term. So what the SMS data stewards would select as the preferred term would be this common name. And lastly, we have an example of a cell therapy substance for marketing authorization application. And we can see in the form that there is a recommended INN, there is a common name, and there is a company code. Since there is a recommended INN, this will be the selected preferred term. Now, going into data quality management, so for all the data stewardship activities that we are doing, so either change requests, data mappings, data cleansing, data enrichments, there is always quality control. So these tasks are sampled, and depending on the nature of the tasks, it can be sampled between 20 to 100%, and they are analyzed to try to identify any errors. And then on top of this, we perform quality assurance, where we try to analyze why these errors happened, what we can do to prevent them from happening again, and improve the process to ensure that these errors are kept to a minimum or to zero. If errors are detected, then they are classified as major or minor, and then they are corrected in SMS as soon as possible. And overall, the SMS data quality is being improved thanks to the cleansing that the SVG is performing. The newly created substances have a higher data quality than the legacy data because, again, we are following the naming conventions defined by the SVG. And with the quality control and quality assurance practices that we have in place, we can guarantee to maintain a very high level of data quality for this new data. Now, going into some statistics. So in the chart on the left, you can see the volumes of change requests, data services, and questions over the years. And you can clearly see that in 2023, it's almost double of the volumes performed last year. And this data that you can see is only up to Q2. So in half of 2023, we have performed almost double the data services of last year. And the main reason for this considerable increase is the data enrichments that we have performed around molecular formula, InChIKI, unis, but also some data cleansings such as the ColorCon excipients and the development substances. Despite this considerable increase in the data services, we were still able to improve our SLA compliance for the change requests. So you can see that in the first half of 2023, we had a 99 compliance for the change requests and a 97 compliance for the customer services. Now, just to highlight some useful information around SMS. So starting with the top, in the Spore portal, you can find the substance data exports, so both the current export and the non-current export. Also, the last customer satisfaction survey and the listing of all Spore SLAs. Then, in terms of SMS webinars, we had already 2 SMS webinars in the past. They've been recorded and they are available for you to rewatch it. In EMA Service Desk, you can find the form to request or new or updated substances, and also the substance request form that I have just shown you. In the Unicom and HMA pages, you can find a lot of documentation prepared by the Substance Validation Group. And in the EMA website, you can find some general introductions to Spore projects and the status of the projects. Now, in terms of use of SMS in projects or systems, you can see the product lifecycle on this slide, and the stars on green represent that regulatory procedure is already using substance data. And as you can see, most of the regulatory procedures, so virtually the whole product lifecycle, is already using substance data. So on the right side, you can see a yellow star. It's the antimicrobial sales and use data. So this is going to be a future veterinary system. But this new system will also use SMS data. So SMS is very integrated in the whole product lifecycle. And for today's webinar, I will be focusing in the integration of SMS in IRIS. So IRIS is a system that manages several regulatory procedures, such as orphan designation, scientific advice, human and vet, PRIME, Innovation Task Force, and soon also pediatric investigation plans. And all the substances with the status current are available in IRIS. And there's 5 data fields from SMS that are consumed, such as the SMS ID, the preferred term, the aliases, so the English names that are public. And you can see by this slide that translations are not mentioned, so translations are not available in IRIS. And also substance type and domain are available. And in this slide, you can see the list of substances that are available in IRIS. So this is a guest view, so you don't need to log in or have any special account to go to this page and browse all the substances that are available in IRIS. And you can see the 5 columns that I have mentioned. So the substance ID, which is the SMS ID, name, so that's the preferred term in SMS at the moment. Then the substance synonyms, so these are our public aliases, so restricted aliases will not be visible here, nor in any consuming system. And then we have the substance type and the domain. Then if you are a registered user, you have a slightly different view. So if you are trying to submit an application in IRIS, the interface will change slightly, but the data fields from SMS are still the same. Then, now going to what is new in SMS. And I will start by talking about the data cleansing of development substances. So this is both a data mapping and data cleansing exercise. And before I start with the actual exercise, I'll just give some background information. So historically, before the go live of SMS, substances were managed in XCV-MPD, and there were 2 separate lists. So there was the list of approved substances that was managed by EMA and publicly visible and usable by everyone. And then there was a separate list of substances, the development substances, that were registered by sponsors without any EMA validation, but they were only visible and usable to the sponsor that has registered it. And since only the sponsor could see that substance, if 2 or 3 or 4 sponsors were developing the same substance, that would mean that there would be 3 or 4 different substance-specific codes. And then if the clinical development was successful, eventually the substance would be registered as an approved substance, and that would be 1 more EV code. So this led to many duplicates and substances with overall poor data quality. So when we went live with SMS, we decided to only register new substances as approved. All substances are registered by SMS data stewards, and only the approved substances will be available in the SMS API and in the substance export. we did migrate the 5,514 development substances, but they are not possible to be edited anymore. So no further updates to these substances will be performed. And we wanted to nullify these substances, but again, we have the limitation that a substance cannot be nullified if it is linked to a product in XCV-MPD. So the same principle applies here. Many of these substances were linked to the development medicinal products in XCV-MPD, and relinking of these products would have to happen before the substance nullification. So we decided to start a cleansing exercise on these substances to ensure that only approved substances are used and available in the consuming systems. We also want to ensure that the same substance ID is used across all that product lifecycle, and that is not possible at the moment, because if the clinical trials start with a development substance and then there is a scientific advice, it would be a different ID. So we want to ensure that the same ID is always used. And we are doing this now because there's not many development substances used in CTIS yet. So the quicker we would do this exercise, the less impact there would be in CTIS. So what we have been doing mainly last year and in the beginning of this year, so we analyzed all the legacy development substances, and we try to map them against the approved substance. Then in July, we contacted the sponsors of these substances to ask to confirm the mapping and, if desired, to update their development products in XCV-MPD. And in the case of we were not able to map the substance, there was no public available information on these development substances. So we asked the sponsors to provide supporting documentation so that we could register a replacement substance. Then what we are hoping to do today or tomorrow is a data fix on these development products to replace the legacy development substance with a replacement approved substance. And we will do this in case the products have not been updated by sponsors until now. What is already happening in parallel is all the substances, development substances that are not linked to a development product or no longer linked to a development product. They are being nullified, and we are hoping to address most of them also this month. So what does this mean for the users? So in XCV-MPD, after this data fix, the product will be updated and it will show a replacement approved substance instead of the development substance as before. But the meaning of the substance, so the concept of the substance record, is still the same. And then impact on CTIS. So some clinical trial applications might need to be updated due to this change in the product and substance. However, this affects a very small number of products, substances, and clinical trial applications. So this is really the minority situation. Most of the users will not be impacted. Now, changing to new SMS capabilities and starting with the capabilities for data stewards only. We do have some new automations that allows us to perform data enrichments quicker, and we have one automation for the new INN lists. So now when WHO publishes a new INN list, we are able to process it much quicker. And we also have a new bulk update functionality that will allow us to add relationships in SMS. And the impact for the users is overall improvement in data quality, and you will be able to see new INNs and benefit from them a few days after it gets published by WHO. In terms of data quality profiles, so we have built quite a lot of these profiles in SMS that monitor different dimensions of quality, such as correctness. So we check on a weekly basis that the chemicals and color excipients have been correctly registered, and we add a SVG flag 1 to highlight that these substances have been reviewed and are in accordance with the rules established by the SVG. We have different ones for completeness. So whenever there's critical missing data fields, such as the substance CV code from XCV MPD, the UNI from FDA, or a replacement substance in case of duplicates, that they are quickly corrected and populated. And some more general ones for standardization of names, so to remove trailing spaces or double spaces or some special characters that cause some issues in some consuming systems. So this is one more layer of data quality monitoring that we are performing. Now, going to new capabilities for the users. So we have new data fields available in the substance export. So we have the molecular formula and INCHI key, mainly for chemical substances, and also the replacement substance, so where you can see the replacement SMS ID in case of duplicates. And if you go to the SPOR portal and you click on the tab substances, you see this page, and you can see two links for substance exports. So you have the current export and the non-current export, and these exports are refreshed on the daily basis with public substance data. So restricted names or molecular formulas for restricted substances, this information is not published. And in this slide, you can see the list of all the data fields that are currently available in the export files. I will not go through all of them. I will just highlight the new ones, so the molecular formula and the INCHI key that are already available for the chemicals. We already have a placeholder column for the molecular weight, which will be available soon, again, only for the public substances. And then the replacement substance that is available in the non-current export for the duplicates. Then there's also some updates that I would like to share about the SMS user interface. So in the past months, we have been working on the preparation for this user interface, and we got a decision taken that this user interface will be built on Microsoft Power Apps, which is the technology that it's used on Iris. The prioritization of this functionality is, however, still ongoing, so I do not have timelines that I can share at this moment, but as soon as this is available, I will communicate. And once this SMS user interface is developed, any users will be able to access all the public substance data. Now, the good news is, since the decision was taken to use Iris, we have already the foundation built there. So the screenshots that I was showing about Iris a few slides ago, this will be the SMS user interface, and it is already live and consumes substances from SMS via the SMS API. It is already refreshed at least once a day, sometimes more often, and it shows the approved substances with the status current. So highlighting again, development substances are not available in Iris. It has the 5 data fields that I have already mentioned, and what still needs to be done, so this is the development that still needs to happen, is also adding the non-current substances so that users can see this historical data and see the replacement substance if available. Also, Iris at the moment only has names in English, so the translations in other EU languages are not available. And very important, external codes are currently not present. So the EV code, the SVG flag that we are using to highlight the cleansed records, the UNI from FDA. So these codes are not yet available in Iris, and they will need to be added. And also other data fields still to be determined, but very likely the molecular formula, the INCHI key, and a few other fields can be added as well once this functionality is fully deployed. However, you can already use this SMS user interface as it is, just taking into account the limitations that I have explained. So you will not be able to search for EV codes here, only by SMS IDs. You will not see development substances, and you will not see translations or non-current substances. Now, going to the future SMS activities. So this is a draft plan of what we are planning to do for the next quarters. So we have activities on data management, data quality, and documentation. I will go into more detail in the next slides. So continuing with automation, so we have already deployed some automations in the past quarters. We are hoping to get a few more for further improving the INN enrichments and doing the same thing for the USAN enrichments. We will continue to add data fields available in the substance export. So the molecular weight, the column is already present in the export, but we will do an enrichment of this field. So soon you'll be able to also see the molecular weight of the substances. And we will also add INN codes. So each INN has a code by WHO, and we will also include this in the export. Then we will also add relationships between a salt and their parent substance, so the active moiety, and this will be used to support the future system on shortages, but also some activities in the vet systems and also in human pharmacovigilance. And we are also planning to add the EC list number. So this is a code that is issued by the Commission, managed by ECHA, used by EFSA. So it's used in many EU agencies, and we are increasing our cooperation with other agencies in substance management and other regulatory procedures around it. So this will become a very important code to have to ensure that our substances are mapped to other EU agencies. And we will make all this new information available in the substance experts. Then in terms of data cleansing, so this quarter we are focusing on the development substances. So the data fix will be performed very soon. We will then start the nullification of the development substances. And then next year, so we still need to define the first classes to be addressed for 2024, but they might be herbals or homeopathics. And in terms of documentation, so one of the feedback or common feedback that we have received from the customer satisfaction survey was there's not enough documentation in SMS, and this is what we have been working on. So we have been improving our internal documentation, but also preparing a document with guidance, general guidance on SMS activities. And this document is being reviewed by the SPOR key user group. And we are hoping to publish it by the end of this year. And in parallel, we are also hoping to publish a shorter guidance just on how to submit a change request. Then in terms of technology, so about the SMS API, so for quite some time, the SMS API has already been available for NCAs, but we have been working to improve and configure the security access to the SMS data to allow industry users to also connect to this SMS API, but only to see the public substance data. So the restricted names, molecular formula or INCHI key of restricted substances. So this information would not be available for industry users via the API, only for NCA users, as it is already possible. And we are hoping that this API access for industry will be made available still this year. In terms of the user interface, again, I don't have a timeline for this new functionality yet. Again, you can use the list of substances in IRIS as it is today, but keeping in mind the limitations in terms of data and data fields. And it is now time for a little quiz to see if I was clear enough or if you were paying enough attention to me. So we will be performing a quiz soon. And how many preferred terms can a substance have? 0, 1, 2, or depends on the regulatory procedure? And the correct answer is 1. So all substances have one preferred term and only one. The choice of the preferred term depends on the regulatory procedure, but the number is always 1. And when is the use of a company code as preferred term not allowed? For clinical trial, scientific advice, orphan designation, or never? Okay, and the correct answer is orphan designation. So for the purpose of orphan designation application, it is not acceptable to use a company code as a preferred term. And this is a requirement of the European Commission, so it's not SMS restrictions. So this is a rule of the procedure, and the same thing also applies to pediatric investigation plans. So you can use a company code for clinical trials, for scientific advice, but not for orphan designations. Which substance data is always made public? EV code, status, preferred term, or all of the above? Very good. So indeed, all of these data fields are always made public. So the EV code and the status, nothing confidential around it. Preferred term, all substances have one preferred term, and the preferred term is always public, because that's how you can find your own substances. So all three of these data fields are always public. How can an industry user currently access all public substance data? Via the SMS API, via the substance export in the Sport portal, XCV-MPD, or IRIS? Very good. So at the moment, the most complete source of substance data available for industry users is the substance export. The API is not yet available for industry. XCV-MPD does not show the SMS ID. IRIS does not show the EV code. So you can find all of this public information in the substance exports in the Spore portal, and this is refreshed on a daily basis. And which substance type is already cleansed? The chemicals, the homeopathics, the herbals, or the human vaccines? Very good. So indeed, the chemicals are the class that it's already cleansed. So homeopathics and herbals are probably the next ones that we will address. And in terms of vaccines, we have cleansed the veterinary vaccines, but not yet the human vaccines. Sachin is the winner. Congratulations, Sachin. I can see that the most difficult question was around the use of the company codes as preferred terms. So this is a very important rule. So certain regulatory procedures, orphan designation, pediatric investigation plans, do not accept company code as preferred term. So if you want to use these regulatory procedures, you need to provide either a recommended INN, if it's already available, or a systematic name for a chemical, or a common name for the other substance types. I think we will now go into the questions. So I will start at the top. Does it mean that two substances can have the same SMS ID but different EV codes? So this question, I think it is related to the development substance slides, and I can see the reason for this question. But no, so there is a one-to-one mapping between SMS ID and EV code. So in case of there is a duplicate, like we had in the past with the development substances, so if there were two EV codes, there would also be two SMS IDs, but one would be made non-current and the other would be kept as current. Then another question, did I understand correct that marketing authorization holders should compare the substances used in their products in XCV-MPD with the SMS list and replace the substances which are not flagged valid by valid substances? Yes, so you can already do that. If you see that your substance has a common duplicate, even in XCV-MPD, or if you open this export available in the Spore portal and you see the substance as a 0, then this means that substance should not be used, and eventually we will perform a similar exercise that we have done with the development substances. So the relinking of development products that is happening today, tomorrow. Eventually, we will need to do it for the approved products. But if you already start replacing the approved product, your products, from a substance with a flag 0 to a substance with a flag 1, then it will facilitate this cleansing that we will need to do in the future, and you can ensure that your product is using a valid substance. I have already addressed this question. Then, when SMS access will be provided via SPAR API version 2 to industry and software vendors, so that functionality is expected to be available this quarter. So by December, you should be able to have access to the SMS API. The next question, how is it affecting the SMS, the transposition of development substances in the XCV-MPD to approved substance codes? Are these substances going to be added to the SMS lists and track the EV codes? So when we migrated the data from XCV-MPD to SMS, so in 2019 when SMS went live, we migrated all the approved substances and all the development substances. So all these substances are available in SMS. All of them have a unique SMS ID, and all of them have a unique EV code. What we are doing now is to relink the development products. Then these substances will no longer be linked to a product in XCV-MPD, and then these duplicated development substances will get nullified in SMS, they will get nullified in XCV-MPD, and only the approved substances will be used. So there is no adding needed because these substances are already in SMS. They are just not published in the export because we don't want anyone to use them. They are not available in the API because we also don't want the new systems to use them. It's really just legacy data that is only visible in XCV-MPD, and we are working to nullify them to prevent their use in all the systems. Don't well understand this Iris, the current SMS user interface. So this page that I've shown you in Iris is the SMS user interface, and it will be further improved with more SMS data and more SMS data fields to be able to support all the regulatory procedures and allow access to all the public data to all the users. Then, in case of substances like excipients coming from the third party and used in multiple products, who should be raising the ticket, applicant or third party? So the substance request should be created by the applicant, since it's the applicant that needs to use that substance in a given regulatory procedure. So I'm not sure exactly which third party you are mentioning, but this third party might be a manufacturer of excipients. They might have thousands of excipients that are not used, all of them in products in the EU. So there is no need to register all these excipients, and only the ones that an applicant is using, those are the ones that should be registered. But yeah, that information needs to be provided by the applicant. Then, must the substance request form be completed and attached when you request an update translation of a substance? This is a very good question. For the case of translations, there is no need to submit the substance request form, and this will be clarified in the substance guidance and in the change request guidance that is being prepared. So there are a few exceptional scenarios where the substance request form is not needed. this is one of the cases, and this will be properly documented and made available to you. Are there any projections when the cleaning of arable substance data will be completed? Not at this stage. Once we have more clear timelines on the sequence of the next classes, then we can better estimate, because the volumes of herbal substances and homeopathics are quite different. So within the herbals and herbal extracts, it's around 5,000 substances. Within the homeopathics is 17,000 substances. Human vaccines, it's just 1,000, but they are much more complex than these two. So this sequence is still being discussed with the SVG, and once we have more information on this, we will also mention it in the next webinar. Will sponsor be informed if the substance is updated by EMA via Datafix? So all the sponsors have already been informed in July about this exercise, and sponsors have been given the opportunity to update their own products with a replacement substance if they choose to do so. Several sponsors have done that, so if a sponsor has updated the product, we will not touch it. If this update was not done, then we will do the data fix as per the message in July, taking into account any changes that you might have requested in the past months. So we asked sponsors to validate our mapping. In some exceptional cases, this mapping has been revised, and in those cases, the data fix will be done in accordance to what was communicated with individually impacted sponsors. What is the implication if a marketing authorization holder does not add aliases and translations to a substance in SMS XCVMPD? There's several potential implications. So you might not be able to find your own substance, because the substance might have many names. There might be many different company codes. So the first issue might be not being able to find the substance. Then there is also an impact on pharmacovigilance, which relies on having as many names as possible to properly recode ICSRs and SUSRs to the right substance and the right product. So there's quite some implications. That's also why we perform data enrichment exercises to ensure that as many valid names as possible are available, to ensure that all the users of the SMS data can find the given substance. Then another question, is it possible to provide a screenshot from the investigator brochure part describing the drug substance, development medicinal product? We need to provide it, but it contains confidential information. So this will depend on the sections that are submitted. So sometimes we do receive screenshots, but it's a section that it's not so relevant, and in those cases we do ask for the full investigator brochure. sometimes it's a very complex substance and we need to read several sections. So we do need many times the full document and not just one screenshot. But all documents are treated in a confidential way. So do please provide it when required. You mentioned that the SMS user interface uses the SMS API, and the API appears in Q4 2023 on the planned activity slide. Is that API public? By when? So the SMS API will be made available by industry this quarter. So until December, we are expecting that any sort of user can access the SMS API with, again, only access to the public data. When will the improvements to IRIS, adding the translations and EV codes for substances happen? So this is what I have mentioned a few times. We don't have timelines for these changes in the SMS user interface. So this functionality is still under prioritization in the whole project pipeline. Once there is more information, we will communicate it, but at this moment, I don't have any timelines to share. Is there any standards followed to decide which name is given to the substance? Example, the UPAC name. Yes, so these are in the business rules defined by the SVG. You can see there is a link in this presentation to the documents created by the SVG. There is a guidance for the chemicals where this list or priority list of names is described, for example, for the chemicals. And this information will also be available in the SMS guidance that we are preparing to be published by the end of the year as well. Is there any way to identify orphan substances in IRIS? No. So IRIS shows the full list of approved and current substances coming from SMS, but there is no way by just going through that list to identify if a substance is used in an orphan designation or not. You can see that information in the EMA webpage by searching for orphan designations or in the Commission registry of orphan designations, but that is only after the orphan designation is granted. But you cannot see that through the list, because a substance might be used in many regulatory procedures, and it's not the purpose of the user interface to show in which regulatory procedure a substance is given. It's just to provide a list of substances that can be used in any regulatory procedure. Let's see, last question. Do we need to update our development substance that is not needed anymore, but used earlier in the development product submission to approved substance, or can we only nullify it? So if you are absolutely sure that you are no longer using that development substance and development product, then you can choose to nullify the development product. So external users are not able to do any operation on substances. So you are not able to nullify the development substance. What you can choose to do is to nullify the development product, and then once we realize that that development substance is no longer used in any current products, then we can nullify the substance. So in the end, that is your choice if you want to update the product or if you want to nullify the product. And I think I have covered all the questions.
Yes, Pedro, I see that in the back we have answered the remaining questions. So they're available for you to consult in Slido, and you have addressed everything that hadn't been replied before verbally. We can leave Slido open, but if it's okay, we would welcome very much your feedback on the session. We have a quick survey. If you can just run through the survey, give us your feedback, how we can improve next time, what you enjoyed about it, we would appreciate it very much. Thank you.